Going live. All righty. You are looking live at Sold Out MetLife Stadium, where today the 16-0 and playoff bound New York Giants are taking on the 0-16 Las Vegas Raiders. And why are the Las Vegas Raiders 0-16? Because they fired their GM, they fired their coach, they fired their offensive coordinator, they're benching Jimmy G. The Las Vegas Raiders suck. Welcome to the Gridiron. Anybody out there at all that's going to spend a little bit of time with me here this evening, I greatly appreciate it. Or if anybody's going to spend any time watching a replay this once again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. I'm going to try to go about 30 minutes here tonight, shoot my mouth off for about 30 minutes. Anybody got anything to say, please feel free, fire away, throw it in the chat box. I usually try to check on the chat box like, every 5 or 10 minutes or so. So as soon as I see something in there, I try to respond to it as fast as I can. So please feel free. Ooh, excuse me. My dinner's coming up. Fire away. But plus, instead of me just rambling on for half an hour, 45 minutes, or whatever it might wind up being, it's just nice to talk to another Giant fan. So please feel free and fire away. Before we get started, if anybody wants to help support my channel out, it would mean the absolute world to me. In the description box below. The top link in the description box takes you to my membership page. I got 3 different membership levels. First one's called the Saquon. Second one I got is called the Lawrence Taylor. And the third one I got is called the Gridiron. Each one's got their own little perks to them. So if you want to help support my channel out, I thank you in advance. It means so much to me. Thank you. If you are subscribed to my channel, thank you. I can use all the support I can get, guys. But if not, please go down below, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon. That way, next time I go live or I put a video out, you'll be notified. And it's free of charge. What do you got to lose, right? But if you are subscribed, I thank you. And then also, additionally, down a little bit farther down, there's 2 additional links. There's a Facebook link, which I'll go over in just a minute. And then there's another one below that. It's a Twitter link. It's always been Twitter. It's Twitter today. It's Twitter tomorrow. It'll be Twitter for 3 trillion years from now. Whatever letter of the alphabet Elon Musk wants to call it, that's on him. I'm not calling it that. It's Twitter. You follow me on Twitter, I will follow you back. I try to put stuff in my Twitter account every day. And then also there's the additional link, the Facebook link. It takes you to my Facebook group. It's called the New York Giants to Gridiron. We have over 6,900 members in there. It's doing simply marvelous, might I add. If I got internet access and if I'm alive and breathing, I'm putting stuff in there darn near 365. Right? I put stuff in there all the time, every day. And if you become a member, not only do I put stuff in there, but members post stuff in there as well, too. So between me and the members, there's a ton of New York Giants information going in there every day. Please join the group. You won't be disappointed. I promise you. I have all that stuff said and done and out of the way with. Man, we got all kinds of stuff going on here. Crazy. Man, I thought the Giants were in trouble. Holy cow, Batman. Woo, man. Somebody called in. It was Big Blue Kickoff Live, and they thought that the last 3 times, including this time, that the Giants and the Raiders were going to play button heads. Let's see, it was 20. What was it? 2023, 22, 2020, so 2020, and was it 16? I guess it was 16, 14, 15, 16, 17. Well, the last 3 times the Giants and the Raiders played one another. There was or shall I say, well, there was this one here where the Raiders just fired midway through the season. They did the Jerry Reese McAdoo kind of thing, right? The Giants did, but the Raiders fired their offensive coordinator, Antonio Pierce. I wish you nothing but the best, brother. I hope you go undefeated forever, except for this week. And Patrick Graham, I hope your defense does phenomenal, except for this week. I was a soft spot in my heart for both those guys, Patrick Graham, Antonio Pierce. Antonio Pierce, man, you're a freaking beast, man. Thank you so much for being a Giant. You freaking rock, brother. but not this week. Okay. But so this time, and then as they said there was the Henry Ruggs thing kind of went on just before the Giants. Last time the Giants went, hold on, let's pop this stuff up here. I'm such a moron. All right, Raiders versus Giants, the results. Okay, here we go. The last three times. So 2021, okay, the Giants won 23-16. Just before that, that's when that was an Xavier McKinney picked the pass off and ran it back for a touchdown, which wound up that wound up being huge. And then the Raiders have an 8-6 advantage. The Giants are closing the gap. If the Giants actually win this one, the Giants it'll be 8-7. And I'll tell you what, the Raiders won the first 5. No, they won the first 3. My bad, first 3. And so actually, the Raiders at one time, they were 7-2. They had a 7-2 advantage over the Giants. But they won obviously the first one's the one I'll never forget, the 42-0 drubbing. The Giants went to Oakland and lost 42-0. But anyway, the Giants are at 8-6 now. So the Giants win this, they'll be 8-7. It would be if they win. I know I'm asking for a lot. They're head-to-head with the Raiders, so they're almost caught up to them. Especially, I said the Raiders had a 7-2 advantage at one point. Anyway, but so the last time, the Henry Ruggs in 2021, that's when the Giants won. Apparently that week, Henry Ruggs, that's when he the automobile accident. We wound up killing somebody. He was drunk and all that stuff and everything. And then when we played him in 2017 was when Geno Smith, when we benched, good old Ben McAdoo. The moron that he is, benched Eli Manning, put Geno Smith in there, right? But Geno Smith was not the answer. He's obviously, as we see, he's a good quarterback, but he was not the answer. So like the last 3 times, this caller won a Big Blue Kickoff Live. It's a good show, real good show, Monday through Friday. He called in. He said the last 3 times that the Giants and the Raiders have played each other, there's been something like, I don't want to say cataclysmic that went on, but I mean, the benching of Eli, then Henry Ruggs, I guess he's spending, I don't know how many years in jail that moron spending in jail. But then here they fired their GM and all that and everything. The one thing is a lot of times you can see kind of possibly maybe like with the and they also brought this up too, right? Was a lot of times that the first, because it seemed like with they were not McDaniels, that some of the veterans there and all, just from hearing, were not totally thrilled with him. And he did horrible in Denver. I'm not sure why they would bring him back. Somebody else would bring him back as a coach, but they did. Okay. So they let him go. But I mean, a lot of the veterans were not totally 100% like maybe happy with him. And also kind of the fact that they let him go. Some of the veterans or whatever don't seem to be like maybe Adams may not be, they may not be too disappointed about that. But now, so Antonio Pierce is the interim coach, I guess maybe for the rest of the season. And sometimes what happens, like what happened with Jeff Saturday, remember him? It was kind of like people are kind of like, who? I mean, we know Jeff Saturday, but you hired him as the coach, the interim coach for what? Who? What? Are you serious, right? Yeah, they were serious. But what winds up happening, right, is that the first game, the troops just rally around. They get all pumped up. Antonio Pierce, he's going to have his guys fired up. Now, whether they win, lose, or draw, whatever, that you don't know. He's going to have them pumped up, right? Especially on the defense. He's going to be mad, pissed off, and blah, 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 blah. So you can see the troops rallying. So that could be a little bit of a problem with the Giants. After that, that's when the talent and the coaching and all that start taking effect and everything, and things start more balancing out, as did with Jeff Saturday. I believe they won the one game, and I think they lost every other game after that, like 1,252,000 to nothing. So it starts kind of evening itself out. But I mean, with this, with Antonio Pierce, he'll have him fired up. and all, and sometimes, a breath of fresh air in there. Antonio Pierce, maybe the veterans liking Antonio more than they did McDaniels and whatever like this. They might play like gangbusters, and they might wind up coming out with the dub, right? So, and then I said after this, they might start tailing off a little bit. So, that's something to, keep an eye on. But also, you kind of got, they're keeping their defense, Patrick Graham, right? Their defense has really not been the problem. Their offense has been the problem. So they fired they're benching Jimmy G. They're putting the backup quarterback in there. The offensive coordinator is gone. The head coach who was offensive line, he's gone. The GM's gone. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, let's start from the top. Let's go. Well, actually, I want to start off here first. Carl Banks. I just seen this in the Facebook group, right? And kudos to him. And I'll probably do something on this by tomorrow night. But kudos to him. From Gary Myers. Okay, breaking news. Carl Banks told me he has resigned from his weekly Wednesday spot on WFAN 660. Banks was completely disrespected last week by the two morons. I put morons in there. He put hosts. I put two morons. Tierney and Sal Lickbola of the BT and Sal show. The two absolute freaking morons. So I'll do something on this tomorrow. Absolute two freaking morons. And I can't even believe, honestly, I can't even believe that that these two morons are actually on the radio, that they actually get paid. WFAN actually has these two freaking idiots on there who actually hang up on Carl Banks. Good for you, Carl Banks. Way to go, brother. When they hung up on him after the conversation about Kayvon Thibodeau and all that. So, I mean, so now if Carl has some free time on Wednesdays, he can always join. so it's just Facebook, I'm saying. But good for Carl Banks. I'm glad. I mean, I'm rather speechless on these two morons hanging up on Carl Banks. Whether they think they're like Jesus Christ or something like that. They're absolute worthless pieces of human trash, and they hang up on an absolute freaking Giants legend because they think they're up here, and they're actually pieces of human trash. So. Good for you, Carl Banks. Way to go. Don't waste it. Don't spend another second of your time with those human pieces of freaking trash. Tierney and Lickballa. Sal lick my balls. Yeah. Morons. So good for you, Carl Banks. So I seen that, and I just want to make sure I spread the news on that one. All right. So, unfortunately, Darren Waller. Well, we kind of knew, he had his problems, right, with his hamstring. Yes, from what I was also, earlier on, because remember when he had it flared up a little earlier in the season, and he started, and it's like, what is going on with him? Why can't what is the, well, apparently, I just heard, recently, whatever, he has like scar tissue. And apparently, I'm not sure if it's from the hamstring or what it's from, but apparently, I heard, it was a few weeks ago, he has like some scar tissue, and where it's at, it presses on, I guess, the hamstring. And I get, it's one of those things. It just could pop up, overuse. So apparently the scar tissue is there. It ain't going nowhere. I guess you can't cut it out. You can't move it. I guess so. And unfortunately, this might be something he has to deal with forever. So, we knew this was a problem coming in. He has the problem with his hamstring, and it's rearing its ugly head. And he could quite possibly be out, unfortunately, for weeks. So, And of course, now we have Daniel Bellinger in there, but he's not really having a banner year at all. Let's see. Tight end Darren Waller is potentially going to be out weeks with the right hamstring injury that forced him to leave in the first half of Sunday's 13-10 overtime loss. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. I mean, it just, I get, what do you say? I guess the Giants can't say nothing went right for them. So basically, I guess what we're trying to say here is that the second half of the Cardinal game, right, is pretty much about the only thing that's gone right for the Giants so far this season. Everything else, if it's bad luck, because the Giants could have used Waller in the second half of that game, without question. Tommy DeVito could have used Waller in that second half of that game. I mean, whatever could go wrong against the Giants is going wrong for the Giants. It's just simply absolutely amazing. And meanwhile, the Eagles and the Cowboys, it seems like everything just keeps on rolling right along for those guys. Simply amazing, right? Waller did not practice Wednesday, but did say he was feeling a little bit better than when the injury first occurred. But I mean, if you're talking a hamstring, it feels a little bit better. I mean, that may not be saying much. He still described it as very frustrating and a little bit discouraging that he's dealing with another hamstring problem. The former Pro Bowl tight end missed 8 games with a hamstring injury last year. His recovery is believed to have contributed to his trade out of Las Vegas. Absolutely. Waller went into Sunday listed as questionable after being limited practice through the week. This hamstring injury seems likely to force him to miss several games. Yep. Potentially the amount of weeks, I'm not that sure, Waller said, but it may take a little bit, unfortunately. And unfortunately, I mean, you look at it, I mean, we're not even halfway, well, let's just say just about halfway through the season. He has 36 catches, 384 yards. So that's only in 8 games. And he missed, so I mean, you figure he's going to miss some time. But if he played a full season, he's on par for about 75 catches, about 800 yards. And just 2 touchdowns, of course. But then, I mean, you can't really, that's not saying much because the Giants only have like 1 touchdown all year. So how many touchdowns do you expect the guy to get? But he's on par, right? Can you complain about that? 75 catches, 800 receiving yards, and we have no offense. Could you imagine if we actually had an offensive line and we'd stay on the field, right? We punted 312 times last week against the Jets. There was 18 punts, I think it was, with the Commanders and the Giants. So we have no offense. Could you imagine if we actually had an offensive line right? And we could keep the ball and stand? Could you imagine how many receptions he'd have? He might have close to 45 or 50 receptions right now. He might be on his way to 100 receiving receptions. But we have no offense. We have no offensive line a lot because absolutely nothing's gone right for the Giants this season. But what I was hearing is that he's got the scar tissue. And that it's always going to be there. Could always present a problem for him. So it is what it is. So, I mean, I want to say we got Daniel Bellinger, but I mean, his season is, to say disappointing is like understatement. Now I know because he really hasn't been hurt. I know we got Waller, who's getting a lot of the, and we have no offensive line, and we have no offense, and we're on a 38-string quarterback, and all. I get all that, but he has 4 catches so far this year. Last year, he had 30. So basically, Daniel Bellinger is on pace for like 9 receptions for this season. 9. And last season, he had 30, and he missed 5 games. So last season, he had 2.5 receptions a game. 12 games he played in, 30 receptions, 2.5 receptions a game. So he missed 5 games. So he missed, just say about 12 catches last year because of the time he missed. So last season, if he played all 17 games, he would have had, just say, at least 40 receptions. 40. Here, he's played in every game this season so far. He has 4 receptions. So he's on pace for 8. So last season, he was on pace. If he played all 17, he would have had at least 40. This year, he's on pace for 8 or 9. 17, 8 or 9. What? And I know we got Waller, but what? You also, I believe, what was it? Paul Dottino was talking about from Big Blue Kickoff Live. There was a pass that was thrown to him, and he wound up dropping it. And he's pretty known for his sure-handed ability. Now, if you look here on Pro Football Focus, I mean, he is. I don't know. He had that picture of him in training camp where somebody took a picture of him. And he looked like he had a 985-inch bicep, right? And then of course that week or whatever, the press wanted the media wanted to talk to him about his biceps and stuff like that. So he apparently like worked out and got stronger and all this stuff. And anyway, tell you what, it's not proven well. I mean, it's not paying off, at least according to Pro Football Focus. He's not having a banner season. Let me tell you that. 2022 is overall grade so far. I mean, last year, overall, right? It was a 60. Okay. This season so far, basically, he hasn't really been injured. That's what I know. He's grading out at 43. He went from a 60 down to a 43. His passing grade overall, pass, receiving, and all, last year was a 57. This year he's down to a 39. His pass blocking grade last year was a 53. This season is a 49. Last season, his run blocking was a 63. This year it's a 54. So, I mean, he's gone down in every aspect, everything. His receiving grade, his pass blocking grade, his offensive grade, his run blocking grade, his receptions, everything is plummeted. And I said, well, did he have 2 touchdowns? He had 2 touchdowns. Of course, he doesn't have any touchdowns this season because we have no touchdowns. So if your offense has no touchdowns, of course, that means your receivers have no touchdowns. Yards per game, he averages 2.8 yards per game. 2.8 yards. He doesn't even average. He averages half a reception a game and 2.8 yards per game. That's what he averages. He catches, what would that be, 6? He averages 8 feet a game as far as receptions. I mean, brutal. He has 22 receiving yards in 8 games. I mean, it's just brutal, absolutely brutal. So, I mean, once again, it's just like everything. I mean, everything is just, there's no, we lose Waller, who's the leading receiver and all of that, and we were replacing him with, I guess, Daniel Bellinger, who's not having a banner season. So maybe a trip to Las Vegas will be just with the doctor order, maybe because we do got the Cowboys, but after that we got not some fantastic opponents coming up. So maybe Daniel Bellinger can have it, But you also were kind of hoping that you got the first year on the didn't look too bad. Not too bad. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be a Mark Bavaro for you old farts out there like me. I'm saying he's going to be a Bob Tucker, not Darren Waller. But a nice rookie season. Can you take a step forward in your second season? It looks like he took at least one step backwards. It's just, once again, another disappointing thing. It's a shame. So, unfortunately, a quarterback's got a couple good friends. One is a good running back, a good running game. We got Saquon. At least we got that. Another one would be, you got your slot receiver. Maybe you got your Wan'Dale Robinson. Somebody can get open over the middle, and right. Your other one, of course, would be your tight end, would be your Darren Waller. So when you got like a LeBron James running out there, an antelope, LeBron James out there running around, that's the quarterback's best friend. So unfortunately, he won't be with the Giants just when Daniel Jones could use him the most. But it is what it is. But and you knew this was coming into the season. Darren Waller, hamstring issues. And as many years as we have Darren Waller, he's going to have hamstring. He's not going to get over this. It is what it is. He can miss 4 weeks and play another 3 weeks and be okay. And then it pops back up again. So unfortunately, however long we have Darren Waller, you can probably pretty much guarantee that he's going to miss time every year. So It is what it is. All right, let's see here. Then the where are we at here? There we go. Over the cap. All right, let's go talk about Leonard Williams and his salary cap. Okay, so basically what the Giants did, they bought themselves a 2, right? Instead of I don't even know what Seattle to be honest with you. Let's take a look, shall we? I guess I should have had this up here, but I'm too much of a moron. All right, let's look here. Seattle Seahawks salary cap. So I'm not even sure if they could have taken on over the cap his whole salary. 2023. Okay, what? Oh, liabilities. They got $6.4 million in cap space. So they couldn't have taken on his whole thing. Okay, so that's just kind of what it was. But the Giants, after the Leonard Williams deal, now we have about $6.4 million, which is huge because earlier this week we had like under $1 million. So now with Leonard Williams, okay, we have $6.37 million, baby, going to over the cap. So we have enough now. We should be able to get us through the rest of the season, barring another 500 injuries, but we should have enough money to get us through the rest of the season because of this move. But basically what the Giants did was they bought themselves a 2 instead of getting, I don't know, if they forced Seattle to come up with $5 million or something, or what, maybe it would have been a 4 and a 5, who knows? But because Seattle basically had to come up with like $500,000 to pay Leonard Williams for the rest of the season, the Giants got themselves a 2. Now, what it wound up being, I think what they did was they took the veterans, a 10-year veteran minimum. That's what Patty Traynor was talking about, which was about $1.4 million or so, 1.3 million, somewhere around there. They took that, right? That's a veteran minimum, and they cut it right down the middle. The Giants pay half of that. Seattle pays the other half. Leonard Williams is due over $9 million for the rest of the season. Okay. So basically, what Patty Traynor was talking about, half of that, they took like the veteran minimum salary for like a 10-year veteran, what I think she was talking about with Leonard Williams. And so Seattle has to come up with pay like $600,000 of it or so, and the Giants have to pay the other, right? Then the rest of his salary, the Giants turned into like a signing bonus. And what they did was that, so instead of Leonard Williams having to wait to get the rest of his money for this, he got it all right now. And the Giants were able to split that signing bonus up into 2 seasons. They can fit it into the remaining years of his contract. So he has this year. So they took about $9 million, all right, of his signing bonus, which the Giants gave him. Cut that in half. Half of that signing bonus is on this year's salary. The other, they're putting on next year's his salary, his contract, because next year they have his avoidable year. So regardless, he had some dead money next. I think we had about $6 million in dead money next season. So unfortunately, they're kicking the can down the road, but they're kicking the can down the road of about $4.5 million. But they're getting themselves. It's going to be a late second round pick. So you figure there's 64 picks by the end of the second round. So they're going to get anywhere from 50 to 60 with the Seahawks, right? So that pick will be, and then they'll get a 5th round pick the next year. But so the figure at the word, maybe they'll get pick number 55 in next year's draft from Leonard Williams. So the Giants bought themselves basically like pick number 55 or pick 60, 50, somewhere in that area. That's what the Giants, because they took on his whole salary. So they kicked about $4.5 million of his salary to next season, which would put it on this voidable year. So now next year, I think there's like about $10 million in dead cap money for Leonard Williams next season. It is what it is. But the salary cap's going up, so it's not the end of the world. But once again, the Giants got themselves a second-round pick. Somebody that is, if they can't find a plug-and-play player in the second round, the guy should be contributing next season. And if you do it right, if he contributes now, he should be a contributor, if not / starter in like year 2. And yeah, they should find themselves somebody who can contribute big time. If not a full-time starter next season, somebody, who's going to get a lot of reps and is going to work himself into the starting role. So that's what the Giants basically bought themselves. So the Giants, with that signing bonus and putting half of it on this year's contract, the other half, bought themselves, freed themselves up like about, with what they did with Seattle and this signing bonus, they freed themselves up over $5 million. So that now they have over $6 million in salary cap space for this final 9 weeks, which should be plenty. Even with the Giants, with all the injuries that they get, and they got to keep bringing guys. And they just put Matt Barkley, brought him in. Got to pay him, right? You got to bring every time we keep losing guys. I know, hard to believe, Giants and injuries, shocking. But every time we keep losing guys, keep bringing more guys in. You got to start paying them. Throw on the practice squad. That some of the guys they're making like only $20,000 or so a week. But that's what is what it is. But you got to pay those guys. Can't pay them. They ain't got no salary cap. So now the Giants have enough salary, right, for the rest of the season. They should for the rest of the season. So, all right. Unfortunately, as I said, they had to kick a little bit of money down the road, which is something Shane didn't want to do, but basically bought themselves a second-round pick. Bought themselves, right? We have enough salary cap space for the rest of the season, right? Let's sit back and I don't want to say enjoy the rest of the season, but they have enough money to function for the rest of the season, and they got themselves a second-round pick and a fifth-rounder the following year. So, and of course, they lost a real good guy, an absolute class act human being. And Leonard, I'm pulling for you, brother. I hate Pete Carroll. I hate the Seahawks, but for you, pal, I wish you nothing but the best because they make the playoffs. They're in first place now. They ain't effing around. They're in first place. So, for the most, but I don't want to jinx them and say they're in the playoffs, but they got a great shot at making the playoffs. And Dallas is going to be in the playoffs. The Eagles are going to be in the playoffs. I despise those two teams. So you're looking for other teams to knock those teams off. And I wish nothing but Seattle, nothing but the best. The thing is that you look at it like if Seattle wins that division, they have to host at least one playoff game, or at least a playoff game, so that way Dallas has to go in there, maybe, right? Maybe Seattle can knock them off. Who knows? But unfortunately, the way the Eagles' luck is, right, is paying the refs off. They have absolutely nobody injured. Everything goes their way, all this stuff and everything. Looks like the Eagles are the forerunners to maybe hosting the championship game once again. But there's going to be a good game this weekend. Cowboys and Eagles. I'm pulling for the Cowboys because my son's a Cowboy fan. So I'm pulling for the Cowboys because I totally despise the freaking Eagles. So I'm pulling for the Cowboys this week. It should be a good game, 4:30. So it's going to be the same. The Giants and the Raiders and the Eagles and the Cowboys going to be playing at the same time. Is what it is. But that should be a good game. That should be a real good game. But then of course, I said you look at the Giants. It's like what a mess they are, right? Well. I mean, holy cow. How about the Raiders? Oh, my goodness. Oh, where are we at here? I mean, the Raiders are benching Jimmy G. They continue to make sweeping changes in the aftermath of the Tuesday night firings of Coach Josh McDaniels and General Manager David Ziegler. Jimmy G, the offseason's big-time acquisition, has been benched 6 starts into his tenure in Vegas. NFL Network's insider Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo reported on Wednesday, per sources informed of the plans. The Raiders are expected to start rookie Aiden O'Connell this Sunday against the Giants, and moving forward, interim head coach Antonio Pierce and GM Champ Kelly confirmed that O'Connell would be the new quarterback one during their Wednesday news conference. We just feel like he gives us the best chance, Pierce told reporters. The guys are rallying around behind him, Kelly added. So, I mean, once again, sometimes, these things like this, sometimes things will start evening out as the weeks go by, but sometimes you get that first week, new coach, guys are rallying around, they're all fired up and everything. The Giants come in, we stink, right? I mean, they're seeing blood. They're just out, you know what I mean? So, so you kind of look at this and like, oh, the Giants should win this one. No, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it certainly could be good and bad. You got Antonio Pierce, who's never been a coach before in the NFL. Aiden O'Connell, who's not a superstar quarterback. And things could go wrong. I mean, the Raiders have had a lot of, let's look at, their offense has not been good at all. It's not to say their offense, their offense is 15.8 points per game. They're number 30 in the league. They've only scored 20 points one time all season long. These are their point totals: 17, 10, 18, 17, 17, 12, and 14. The only 1 week was against the New England Patriots. They beat the Patriots 21-17. And now the Raiders are, they lost 30-12 to the Bears, and then they lost to the Lions 26-14. So only one time in their 8 games have they scored 20 points. One time. The same thing, look at like the Giants. But so the Raiders, where are we at here? Josh Jacobs is averaging 3.1 yards per carry, 133 carries, 408 yards. Josh Jacobs is a good running back. 3.1 yards per carry. They're averaging 3.1 yards per carry as a team. Jimmy G was, what was he? 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. O'Connell, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. The Raiders have given, they have a lot of bad streaks going. I think they had a turnover in, I forgot what it was, like 15 straight games, a lot of interceptions. So their offense is not a juggernaut, right? So the Giants defense, hopefully, should hopefully, keep things under control. But you get Devontae Adams, what does he have? I know he's got to be beside himself. He has 47 catches. They have 78 targets, so they're throwing him the ball a lot. But he only has 47 receptions. Well, still 47 receptions halfway through the season. He's on pace for 100 receptions, so I guess it can't be 2. But you got Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams. Those are their 2 big receivers. Nobody else will. And Josh Jacobs has 28 coming out of the backfield. All right. So Devontae Adams, but he only averages 11.5 yards a reception. So nobody's really averaging anything big with them. Right. But I said, they got, their offense is a mess. As I said, I certainly don't want to be jinxing anybody, because then, they want to put like a 40 burger on the Giants or something. Raiders won 41-13. Yeah. But as of right now, they're that's why they fired the GM. They took over a playoff team. I think they were 10-7, and ever since then they just downhill. So it's going to be interesting. Once again, it's a winnable game for the Giants, but it's not going to be not going to be a normal kind of thing. Got a backup quarterback in there, interim coach, interim GM, interim offensive coordinator. But it says the Raiders fire Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. Let's see. After much thought about what the Raiders need to move forward, I have decided to part ways with Josh and Dave, owner Mark Davis said in a statement. I want to thank them both for their hard work and wish them and their families nothing but the best. Now, he's still paying. He's paying Josh McDaniels, I don't know how many years his contract. He's still paying Chucky, right? He was a 10-year Gruden, 10-year, $100 million, I think it was. He's paying him. I don't know how many more years he's paying him for, but he's paying him $10 million a year. So he's just like firing all these guys left and right. I don't know, Mike Mayock, the other GM, I don't know what he was under contract for. He fired him with some guaranteed contract there. So he's paying all these guys. It's like the Bobby Bonilla kind of thing going on. Yeah, I'm paying John Gruden for the next 300 years. Got Mike Mayock on the contract for the next 3,000 years. I got Josh McDaniels for another 5 years. I got what a mess they are. What an absolute mess. I mean, they were the mile from the middle, from 66, it's basically 67 when they went to Super Bowl II. From Super Bowl II, I mean, my goodness, to the mid-'80s, man, just a straight-up mile. Them and the Cowboys. But, I mean, the Raiders, I mean, man, just model of just win, baby. Al Davis, he give you just win, baby. You know what I mean? Oh, man. But I'll tell you what, ever since I think they got like one playoff win since they went to the Super Bowl in 2002. I mean, wow, what a freaking mess they are. In the past 20 years, I mean, you kind of feel that the Giants are bad. Oh, my God, these guys are horrible. Says this move here. Okay, quarterbacks coach Bob Hardigree will be promoted to offensive coordinator and take over offensive play calling, which has been handled by McDaniels. So the quarterback coach, who's familiar obviously with the quarterbacks, he'll be calling the plays. So that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea at all. Of course, after the Raiders lost 26-14 at Detroit on Monday night, Las Vegas' second consecutive defeat, which the team's offense could not get no traction. With the defeat, the Raiders dropped to 3-5. I mean, you see absolutely no improvement. There's nothing, and I can see what Davis was trying to do. I mean, you don't see anything. There's nothing. It's like we're kind of going back. Why are we going backwards? We were just 10-7 a couple years ago. Brought these guys in. I'm not saying we should be winning the Super Bowl, but our offense is horrible. We're getting worse. Well, what is going, so. Davis said at the time that McDaniels and Ziegler were expected to take the team to the next step in its evolution. Instead, the Raiders went a combined 9-16 without a playoff appearance under the new regime. The McDaniels finished his tenure with the third worst record as any Raiders coach with at least 25 games. Well, what did you really expect? I mean, he was horrible. I mean, with the Broncos. McDaniels and Ziegler, both hired in January 2020, inherited a 10-7 team that made an unexpected run to the playoffs during the 2021 season. The organization's second postseason bid since 2002. So in 20 years, they've gone to the playoffs 2 times. And, of course, under Rich Bisaccia and then GM Mike Mayock, who took over following the in-season resignation of Coach John Gruden. So they had it, Mike Mayock and the Bisaccia, right? They went 10-7. They said, get out of here. We don't want you guys anymore. And he brought these guys in. Now, Mike Mayock, I mean, he talks, and he's very knowledgeable and all, but some of his draft picks were very questionable. Cleveland Farrell at pick number 4, Alex Leatherwood, and I think it was a first-round pick or something. I mean, very, very sketchy. I mean, holy cow, Batman. McDaniels did not last 2 full seasons in his previous stop as head coach either, with the Broncos going a combined 11-7 with 17 with the Broncos from 2009 to 2010. He became the first non-interim coach in the Super Bowl era to be fired by 2 franchises before the end of his second season. And once again, it'll be interesting to see if he winds up landing back with the Patriots, because what happened with Joe Judge, he flew the coop, became the coach of the Giants. He stunk up the joint. Where did he wind up back? Back with the Patriots. Josh McDaniels flew the coop, stunk up the joints in Las Vegas. Where's he going to wind up back at? Quite possibly the Patriots. Be interesting to see if he winds up back with the Patriots. Very interesting to see. Davis was enamored with McDaniels' offensive system and background as a longtime offensive coordinator with the Patriots, but with whom McDaniels won 6 Super Bowls. But that's with Tom Brady. Okay. But the the offensive success did not translate to Las Vegas, and the Raiders suffered some of the most embarrassing defeats in franchise history under McDaniel's Ziegler duo. That including blowing a 20-0 halftime lead against the Cardinals for the biggest collapse in franchise history, losing to the Indianapolis Colts in the first game with Jeff Saturday was the interim coach after he had never coached above the high school level, blowing a double-digit lead to Baker Mayfield and the Rams 2 days after Mayfield joined his new team, and getting shut out in New Orleans when the starting offense failed to cross the 50-yard line. Holy cow. 2 weeks later, the Raiders lost 30-12 to Chicago, and an undrafted rookie, Tyson Bagent, a former Division II quarterback, in his first career start, he put up a 30-burger. They lost 30-12 to the guy. Holy cow. Of course, they moved on from Derek Carr, who's not doing too bad at all with the Saints. Then they brought in Jimmy G, right? Signed a 3-year, $72 million deal, baby. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And now he's on the bench. Oh, man. Oh, my God. I mean, and then, of course, Garoppolo missed 2.5 games this season because of a concussion and a back injury. Now, he leads the NFL in interceptions with 9. He's coming off one of his worst statistical games of his career at Detroit. The Raiders had the number 31 total offense, number 32 in rushing yards per game, and ranked number 30 in points per game. I mean, it's just absolutely. I mean, was it? Jacobs, the NFL rating rushing leader, has yet to record a 100-yard rushing game this season, bottoming out at -2 yards in a Week 2 blowout loss to the Bills. Then there's former Pro Bowl slot receiver Hunter Renfrow, who caught 103 passes in 2021, but has just 10 receptions on 16 targets this season. I mean, it's one thing. I mean, yeah. You start thinking it's like, man, Giants, man, we're a mess, but could be worse. We could be the Raiders. And I'll tell you what, they definitely have to start over. I mean, that's horrible. I wish Patrick Graham nothing but the best, and except for this weekend, I wish Antonio Pierce. I'll tell you what, hey man, he was a heck of a player. You love his football, his intelligence, his work ethic, his pride, determination, all that stuff. His love of the game and all that stuff. I wish him hope he becomes the coach of the Raiders. I hope he leads them to nothing but a bunch of glory, except for this weekend. But I said if Antonio Pierce turns that organization around, I'm all for it, man, because I love Antonio Pierce. We owe him a lot too. We owe Antonio Pierce a heck of a lot, especially for our 2007 Super Bowl season. But the Raiders they're a mess. As I said, it could be good and it could be bad, right? If it was status quo, kind of going along with Josh McDaniels once again this weekend, the Giants would have probably, I would think, maybe a little bit better of a chance of winning this week, because if they had McDaniels and all of that stuff going on, the Giants would have a decent, good chance. They still got obviously a chance this weekend of winning, obviously. But the thing is, I said, sometimes when you get those brand new coaches coming in, but the interim coaches, the team just rallies around them, right? And they overperform what they normally could do, right? And then after that, maybe the talent might start and the coaching might start leveling out a little bit. So, I mean, this could be Giants could be walking into a whirlwind here. Who knows? I mean, I said if that rookie quarterback starts hitting Devontae Adams and you start getting them some confidence and stuff like that, obviously anything's possible. So it could be an interesting game. Once again, interesting game. But at least as bad as it is for the Giants, and actually our record's even worse than the Raiders is. I mean, I think it's a little bit worse right now to be a Raider fan. All right, guys. Well, that pretty much wraps up 49 minutes. Whoever spent any time listening to me live, thank you. Or if anybody spends any time watching the replay, so once again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It means the world to me. Thank you. And as always, 3D, baby. You guys stay safe out there and go